Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so that you never miss any video lesson from Rao's IAS Study Circle. Join the official Telegram channel of Rao's IAS Study Circle to stay updated and get all the materials on the Telegram. The link to the channel can be found in the description box. Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why and how of newspaper reading from UPSC Civil Services examination point of view. Now today let us take up the New Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 25th September 2022 and also the important news which has appeared in the explained section of Indian Express in the last week. And these are the list of the news which we will be taking up for today's discussion. So on this note, let's start our discussion from UPSC prelims and mains perspective. Hello students, there is an announcement for you regarding the optional classes which we at Rao's IAS are starting at Bengaluru and New Delhi Center. The optional paper of Public Administration will be taken up by Anubhav Sharma sir at the Bengaluru campus on 26 September from 3:30 pm. For the history optional subject, orientation class at the Bengaluru campus will be taken up by Parampreet Singh sir on 27th of September from 3:30 pm. And the orientation for geography as an optional subject will be taken up by Indrajit Bariyar sir on 27th September from 6 pm. So these three subjects will be taken up at Bengaluru Center. Shobik Sen sir will take up the optional classes for psychology optional at New Delhi on 28th of September from 3:30 pm. And this will be followed up by the orientation class of sociology by Dr. Surendra Singh sir on 28th of September from 6 pm onwards. On 29th September, the orientation class will be taken up for PSIR optional by Rahul Puri sir from 3:30 pm. Whereas on the same day, that is on 29th September from 6 pm onwards, orientation classes for the history optional will be taken up by Kritika ma'am and Mathimaran Raju sir. Next, on 30th of September, the orientation class for public administration will be taken up by Dr. V.K. Kaushik sir from 3:30 pm, which will be followed up by the orientation class for geography optional at New Delhi campus from 6 pm on 30th of September by Vineet Thaplu sir. Now these orientation classes will be conducted both online and also in the offline mode. And these classes you can interact with your teachers about the optional subjects, the nature of questions asked and also the syllabus provided by UPSC. Now let's take up this news appearing in the explained section of Indian Express. And here this news talks about color revolution where the Chinese President Xi Jinping has warned against. So this news says that Chinese President during the SCO summit recently in Samarkand has appealed to Russia, India and also other members of SCO to cooperate with each other in order to prevent foreign powers from destabilizing their countries by inciting color revolutions. Now here foreign powers has been referred to the Western countries including United States of America. And color revolutions has been referred to popular movements or revolutions which has taken place in some of the Eastern European countries, some of the Middle East countries, and also reference has been made with reference to Hong Kong regarding the recent revolution against China. So such popular movements or revolutions are often with respect to regime change or in favor of regime change. Such protests are in the nature of removal of authoritarian leaders and also such protests are in favor of free elections. And these are also referred as color revolutions because protesters in most of these protests wear specific colors. For example, the revolution which occurred in Ukraine in 2004-2005 was referred as Orange Revolution because the protesters wore orange colors. Now some of these revolutions referred as color revolutions are also named after some of the flowers like Jasmine Revolution or Tulip Revolution. Now this topic mainly becomes important from your prelims perspective regarding current events of international importance. And here let us go through some of the important popular movements which has led to regime change. So talking about Orange Revolution which took place in Ukraine in the year 2004 to 2005. And the revolution was regarding the presidential election of Viktor Yanukovych and Viktor Yushchenko. Now Viktor Yanukovych was supported by Russia, whereas Viktor Yushchenko was supported by United States. And the protest started because of certain reports of presidential elections of 2004-2005 being rigged in favor of incumbent Viktor Yanukovych. That is the person who was backed by Russia. So some of the reports highlighted that presidential elections were rigged in favor of Viktor Yanukovych, who was backed by Moscow, against Viktor Yushchenko, who was an ally of the West. And even the Election Commission of Ukraine declared Yanukovych the winner of the election. And this drew criticism not only from United States but also from European Union, who said they will not recognize the result. And this led to further protest in Ukraine. Now, the reason why this protest was also referred as Orange Revolution was that protesters were clad in orange, as you can see in this picture, and this was because of Yushchenko's campaign color also. The protesters took to streets, and the country saw nearly 2 weeks of demonstrations against the election process or against the victory of Viktor Yanukovych. Now, seeing the protest, Yanukovych supporters in the east threatened to secede from Ukraine if the results were annulled. Now, despite these allegations and counter allegations, the Supreme Court of Ukraine in December 2004 ruled the election invalid and ordered re-voting for presidency. And in the re-voting process, Viktor Yushchenko, who was an ally of the West, defeated Yanukovych by garnering around 52% of the vote. And this ended the Orange Revolution in Ukraine. Now, talking about Tulip Revolution, which took place in Kyrgyzstan in the capital Bishkek. And this again was because of fraudulent election process for President Askar Akayev and his family members, as his family members also won the election. So this Tulip Revolution led to the ouster of Kyrgyzstan's President Askar Akayev in early 2005, and these protests were in response to the parliamentary elections in February, in which Akayev's allies and family members won. So the protest was with respect to the nature of rigged election which took place in Kyrgyzstan. And fraud in the election process was also observed by foreign observers and also by Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. Now, this organization in Europe is the world's largest regional security-oriented intergovernmental organization, which also has observer status at United Nations. And it deals with security aspect or security matters, especially regarding politico-military aspect, economic and environmental issues, and also human aspects. So the areas in which Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe looks into, especially pertaining to the security aspect, are arms control, border management, combating trafficking in human beings, counter-terrorism, conflict prevention and resolution, cyber security, democratization aspects, economic activities, education, elections, environmental issues, gender equality, good governance, human rights, migration, media freedom and development, national minority issues, policing, reform and cooperation in security sector, rule of law, tolerance and non-discrimination, and also youth. So overall, we can say that this Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe covers or addresses a wide range of security-related concerns. So these reports, including the report of Wall Street Journal, which say that US government had provided aid to Kyrgyz opposition before the election via non-governmental agencies. So because of fraudulent election process leading to members of Akayev's family winning the election, this led to eruption of protest in the entire country against the president, who was the president since 1990. So in March 2005, opposition leaders joined demonstrators and they began to occupy the area outside the parliament building in the capital city of Kyrgyzstan, that is Bishkek. Now, Akayev initially refused to negotiate at first, but then in March in 2005, he fled the country and eventually resigned from the post. So the color revolutions has mostly seen regime change of authoritarian leaders. Now the next important revolution is the Jasmine Revolution, which started in Tunisia and ended as Arab Spring in Egypt and some of the Middle Eastern countries. So this revolution in Tunisia was in response to the underlying corruption, unemployment, inflation and lack of political freedoms in the country. And self-immolation by a vegetable vendor initiated the entire protest in Tunisia against the reign of long-time president Zain el-Abidine bin Ali. Now the Western media houses termed the revolution as Jasmine Revolution in reference to Tunisia's national flower. And this revolution, which started in Tunisia, further spread to Middle Eastern countries and also North African countries, including Arab, and also saw a series of regime change, especially in Egypt. So Arab Spring can be said to be a wave of pro-democracy protests and uprisings that took place in the Middle East and North Africa beginning in 2010 and 2011, and it also challenged some of the region's entrenched authoritarian regime. And very recently, we are witnessing protests in Iran, especially by their women, against wearing of hijab and also suppression of various human rights. Now look into this question asked by UPSC in 2014. The question was, recently a series of uprisings of people referred to as Arab Spring originally started from. Options were Egypt, Lebanon, Syria and Tunisia, and of course here the correct answer would become Tunisia. So these color revolutions becomes important both from our prelims and mains perspective, particularly under GS paper 2. Let's take up the next news in the explained section regarding carbon dating. Now this news says that what is carbon dating and can the Gyanvapi Shivling be dated by this technique. So this news highlights that a district court in Varanasi has allowed a petition seeking carbon dating of the structure which the Hindu side has claimed as Shivling. Now in this news, let us understand about carbon dating and more particularly about the C14 isotope. Now carbon exists in different isotopes such as C12, C13, C14 and even stresses to C22. But in the natural state, it exists as C12, C13 and C14. Now here the difference in these numbers, that is 12, 13 and 14, is with respect to the difference in neutrons. So in all these different isotopes, the number of protons are same, that is 6 protons each. And what differs is the number of neutron. So in the 612 isotope, there is 6 neutron and 6 proton. Whereas in the C13 isotope, there are 6 protons and 7 neutrons. And in C14 isotope, there are 6 protons and 8 neutrons. So we see that the ratio between proton and neutron continue to increase the moment we move from C12 to C14. And it is this ratio between the proton and neutron which impacts the band of stability or binding stability of the nucleus. Now since C14 is unstable in nature, hence it emits beta minus particle so as to make it more stable. And that is why C14 isotope can be said to be radioactive and hence it decays to half of its existence in approx 5730 years. Now every living being, be it humans, animals or even plants, contain both C12 and also C14 isotopes. And once these living beings die, the process of metabolism also stops. And it is here at the time of death when C14 isotope in the living being starts decaying. And this is what carbon dating actually measures, which is the ratio between C12, which exists in its natural state, and as compared to the declining C14 isotope. Now why C14 decreases? Because it is unstable and hence it decays to achieve stability. And this ratio between C12 and C14 helps us to find out the date of its existence. So effectively, carbon dating helps to find the age of organic materials by comparing the rate of decay of C14 isotope. Now since C14 isotope has 8 neutrons and 6 protons, hence the ratio between proton and neutron is more than 1 and it is 1.33, which is above the band of stability. So in order to achieve stability, C14 isotope emits beta minus particle which can be counted. So effectively we can say that carbon dating is based on measuring the ratio of two types of carbon, which is the rare radiocarbon C14 and the abundant stable C12 found in organic material at the time of its death and also at present. Now for this purpose, Libby, Anderson and Arnold in 1949 were the first to measure radiocarbon's rate of decay and found that the half-life for C14 is approx 5568 plus minus 30 years. And for this purpose in 1960, Libby received the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for his method to use carbon-14 for age determination in archaeology, geology, geophysics and other branches of science. Now regarding carbon dating, there are also certain limitations, and these limitations are regarding carbon dating of non-living materials such as rocks, and also the fact that those things which are more than 40,000 to 50,000 years old, because in such time the entire C14 could have completely decayed. and it will be very difficult to find even negligible traces of C14 isotopes in such old materials. So the whole idea of carbon dating the structure is to find whether the temple predates the mosque. And in this regard, carbon dating can help, especially in cases where they can find certain insects or plants or any organic materials which are trapped beneath the rock. Now, this news further says that carbon dating can also be used in an indirect way in certain circumstances. For example, age of ice cores in glaciers and polar regions is determined using carbon dating by studying the carbon dioxide molecules trapped inside large ice sheets. Now, this is because the trapped molecules of carbon dioxide has hardly any interaction with the outside atmosphere and hence can be found in the same state when they were trapped. However, it is yet not sure how the carbon dating of the existing structure will take place. So in this news analysis, what you need to know is about carbon dating, the fact that C14 isotope is radioactive and decays. Now this is radioactive because it is unstable because of increased number of neutrons as compared to protons. And in order to achieve stability, the unstable nucleus emits radiation. Further, C14 isotope reduces to half of itself in about 5730 years, which is also referred to as its half-life. And carbon dating is based on measuring the ratio between two types of carbon, that is between C12 and C14, as C12 is stable and remains the same way even after death of the organic matter. Thus, this news becomes important mainly from the perspective of GS paper 3 under science and technology, and question can be asked both in your prelims and mains examination. Now let's take up this news appearing in the explained section, and here it talks about banking system liquidity going into deficit mode, that is the banking system running short of cash. Now the situation after COVID was that RBI injected money into the banking system, and as of November 2021 there was surplus liquidity in the banking system amounting to rupees 8 lakh crores. So this rupees 8 lakh crores was in surplus. However, in the present circumstances, the liquidity situation is not that great and the banking system has gone into deficit mode, which means that the outstanding bank credit has increased. And one of the reasons attributed is also advanced tax flow. So according to the data published by RBI as of 20th September 2022, the outstanding bank deficit stands at rupees 21,873.4 crores. So in the present circumstances, let us understand the banking system liquidity going into deficit mode. Now here we need to understand how liquidity in a bank operates, which refers to the readily available cash at hand with the banking system. And to meet the short-term goals and financial needs of the bank, it borrows from the RBI. So the banking system liquidity functions in both directions. So a bank on a given day, if the bank acts as a net borrower, then the system liquidity can be said to be in deficit. And the bank borrows from RBI, which is a central bank, under the liquidity adjustment facility. Whereas on the other hand, if bank acts as a net lender to RBI, that is bank loans certain amounts to RBI, then in such situation, the system liquidity is said to be running in surplus. And liquidity adjustment facility or LAF is a financial tool which is used in monetary policy by the central bank, in our case, the Reserve Bank of India. So when the scheduled commercial banks acts as a net borrower, then in such situation, the RBI allows banks to borrow money through repurchase agreements, also referred as repos. And the rate of borrowing by the bank from RBI is referred as repo rate. So if the bank keeps on borrowing from RBI, RBI increases the repo rate. Now, increase in repo rate means that borrowing cost of the bank from RBI becomes costly. And this further increases the interest rate of different kinds of loans, such as home loans, car loans, etc. And this is also because the different kind of loans offered by the scheduled commercial banks are linked to the repo rate. So an increase in repo rate further increases the interest on loans. And this acts as a dampener on further investments, as industries and individuals do not prefer to take costly loans. So increase in repo rate not only impacts investments because of high cost of loan, but also impacts liquidity because individuals or organizations do not prefer to take loans and invest in their respective businesses. Further, as a part of liquidity adjustment facility, RBI sucks out greater amount from the banks by offering them better reverse repo rates. And this greater reverse repo rate allows banks to loan sums to RBI through reverse repurchase agreements, as RBI gives them a better rate of lending. And this effectively helps RBI to suck out money from the system. Now, the present reason for deficit in banking liquidity can be attributed to the following reasons. The first reason highlighted is regarding RBI's intervention, particularly to regulate forex exchange, as the value of rupee continues to depreciate. And here let's understand this through this example. Now, suppose earlier the value of $1 was 60 rupees, and after depreciation, the value of $1 has become 80 rupees. So here in this situation, we can say that the value of rupee has depreciated, whereas on the other hand, the value of dollar has appreciated. Now, appreciation of value of dollar also means that there is less inflow of dollar and there is more outflow of dollar. So in India, there is shortage of dollar. So to counter this shortage of dollar, RBI starts selling dollars so as to increase the supply of dollars. Now, more supply of dollar in the market depreciates its value and conversely appreciates the value of rupee. Now, when value of rupee depreciates, or on the other hand, when the value of dollar appreciates, then it makes the import costly, because earlier we were spending only rupees 60 for import of item worth $1. And in the present circumstances, we have to spend rupees 20 more, that is rupees 80 for the import of same amount of dollar. And this not only makes import costly, but also affects the current account deficit because of increased value of import. So to counter the depreciation of rupee, RBI starts selling dollars in order to increase its supply. Now, although it helps to appreciate the value of rupee, but conversely, it also sucks out money from the system as it reduces the supply of rupee. So RBI's intervention has said to be one of the reasons for deficit in banking system liquidity. Here it says that RBI has been intervening to check large-scale rupee depreciation. And as a part of such intervention, RBI has been selling dollars and sucking out rupees from the system. And the repeated intervention of RBI has led to decrease in rupee liquidity in the economy. Although it has helped to appreciate rupee in the market, but yet its supply has been impacted. Now, the second reason is increase in bank credit or increase in demand for credit, especially after COVID-19. So it says that economic growth post COVID-19 has led to demand for credit. That is, there is more demand for loans for capital investment. And because of this, bank has to repeatedly go for net borrowing from RBI under the liquid adjustment facility. An increase in credit by banks has also led to decrease in banking liquidity, obviously because they are providing more loans. And the third reason highlighted is limited growth of deposits. So it says that on one hand, there has been increase in credit, while on the other hand, deposits have not increased in proportion, leading to deficit in banking liquidity. So these are the reasons which has been provided for deficit in banking system liquidity. Now let's take up this news from the Hindu newspaper appearing on page number 3, and it says that no coal mining in Parsa and Kete Extension, says Chhattisgargh minister. Now there has been a lot of protest going on in Chhattisgargh, especially in the Hasdeo and Aranya coalfield region, and this protest is by the locals against mining and deforestation which is going on in this area for the purpose of coal mining. So the locals in this area are demanding from the state governments to abandon the coal fields. However, the state government has stated that it is up to the central government to cancel the coal license. So from your examination perspective, you need to know about the Hasdeo Aranya region, as this region lies in Chhattisgargh. Now, Chhattisgargh also has scheduled areas as per Schedule 5 of the Indian Constitution. And for this purpose, the provisions of the Panchayat extension to the Scheduled Areas Act also applies to the state of Chhattisgargh. Now this act, that is PESA, it says that it provides for extensions of provisions of Part 9. Now Part 9 of the Indian Constitution deals with panchayats. So it says that PESA Act provides for the extension of provisions of panchayats relating to the scheduled areas. And in this regard, both these provisions becomes important as it empowers the Gram Sabha and its prior recommendation is necessary for grant of prospecting license or mining lease for minor minerals in the scheduled areas, and also prior recommendation of Gram Sabha or Panchayat at appropriate level is mandatory for grant of concession for exploitation of minor minerals by the auction. So we understand that the Gram Sabha has power to grant prospecting license or mining lease for minor minerals and also for grant of concession for exploitation of minor minerals by auctions. Now talking about the Hasdeo Aranya region, Aranya refers to forest and this area lies in the catchment area of Hasdeo river and it is spread across 2000 square kilometer in north central Chhattisgargh. Now the Hasdeo river is the largest tributary of Mahanadi river which originates in Chhattisgargh and flows through Orissa into the Bay of Bengal. So remember this prelims pointer. Now the Hasdeo forest area are also the catchment area for the Hasdeo Bungo Dam which is built across the Hasdeo river and this irrigates close to 6 lakh acres of land and it is very crucial to the state for the growth of paddy as paddy is Chhattisgarh's main crop. Now the forested areas are ecologically sensitive due to its rich biodiversity and it also has large migratory corridors for elephants. And one of the elephant corridors is the Lemru Elephant Reserve. Now these elephant reserves helps to prevent human-animal conflict especially in the region as a lot of elephants moves into the Chhattisgarh region from Odisha and Jharkhand. Now it further highlights that this particular area, that is Hasdeo Aranya area, was declared as no-go zone for mining by the central government in 2009. However, despite this, mining in the region has continued as the policy for no-go zone was not finalized. Now from mining, let's understand some of the basics with respect to different types of coal. So the different types of coal are peat, lignite, bituminous and anthracite. And to know which is a better quality of coal, two things are important. Its heat content must be high and it should have less quantity of moisture. And in this regard, anthracite can be said to be the one of the best form of coal and it is highly desirable fuel because of its high heat content and low sulfur content. Supplies are limited in most areas and one of the most extensively used coal are the bituminous coal and it is extensively used as a fuel because of its high heat content and large supplies normally has a high sulfur content, whereas lignite has a low heat content and also low sulfur content, limited supplies in most areas, and peat is partially decayed plant matter in swamps and bogs and has low heat content. Now in this regard you should also know about carbonization. Now carbonization refers to the process of conversion of dead vegetation into coal. So this extract from NCERT highlights that about 300 million years ago, the earth had dense forest in low-lying wetland areas. Due to natural processes like flooding, these forests got buried under the soil, and as more soil deposited over them, these soils were compressed. Now as these soils sank lower and lower, the temperature increased along with pressure. So both temperature and pressure increased. So it says that under high pressure and high temperature, dead plants got slowly converted into coal. And as coal contains mainly carbon, the slow process of conversion of dead vegetation into coal is called carbonization. And since coal is formed from the remains of vegetation, coal is also called a fossil fuel. Thus, the conversion of dead vegetation into coal is referred as carbonization. Now, use of coal comes along with great environmental and social cost. Hence, it highlights that why moving away from coal is important. Obviously, one of the main reasons is environmental impact, as it highlights that coal emits nearly twice as much carbon dioxide as natural gas and about 60% more than oil. And we know that carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas which gets trapped in the atmosphere. Hence, use of coal is definitely a threat to global warming. The next point highlighted is an economic reason. Here it says that coal-based thermal plants are capital-intensive plants. But on the other hand, decentralized solar plants can be installed by farmers on their private land. Now, such solar plants can further boost employment opportunities as well as generate extra source of revenue apart from being environmental friendly. Now, the third problem highlighted is regarding health concerns. So, it says that combusting coal also leaves behind partially burnt carbon particles that feed pollution and trigger respiratory disorders. And the fourth point highlighted is the international commitments which we have made at United Nations. So it highlights that at COP26, India has come out with Panch Amrit strategy, which includes increasing the share of renewable energy to 50% by 2030 and to achieve net zero emissions by 2070. Now, net zero emission refers to a balance between the net greenhouse gases produced and the net greenhouse gases taken out of the atmosphere. Now, it is not easy to replace coal with any other renewable energy because of our high dependence on coal, as India's share of global energy demand is set to rise to 9% by 2035. And here, coal will remain the dominant fuel produced in India with a 65% share of total production in 2035. So, rising energy demands of India, mainly because of rapid urbanization, post-COVID economic recovery, and increase in general temperature, will require much more energy. And such amount of energy can easily be fulfilled by coal-based plants. Another reason as to why doing away with coal is very difficult because coal is cheap and easily available. Another reason as to why coal cannot be removed so easily is that renewable energies have low reliability. For example, solar energy cannot be generated during cloudy weather or during nights. And another very important reason is, of course, the high economic cost for renewable energy. So it says that evidence from rich countries show how costly it can be to transition to green power. And in US, closing coal mines has created mass unemployment and devastated the local communities. So these are some of the associated challenges with respect to doing away with coal-based power plants. Yet there are certain steps which can be taken. And these are to discourage new coal-based plants, to improve efficiency of coal-based plants, and also to reduce per unit of emissions. The third step is to promote coal washing. Now, it is a process of enrichment of combustibles in coal by removal of non-combustible impurities. So, there is removal of impurities in the process by utilizing industrial separators mainly based on difference in specific gravity of coal and other impurities like shales, sand, and stones. So, the whole idea is to remove impurities from the coal. The fourth point is to incentivize use of renewable energy by reducing power tariffs and also providing subsidy in the installation of such renewable plants. The fifth point is technological innovations, and the sixth point is to reduce dependence on fossil fuel by moving towards electric vehicles and induction-based cooking. So these are some of the steps which can be taken to not only improve the efficiency of coal-based plants, but also to slowly shift towards renewable alternatives. Thus, this news becomes important mainly from the perspective of geography under GS paper 1, but also from the perspective of environment under GS paper 3. Now, last news for discussion appears on page number 6 in the Hindu newspaper. It says a Jain heritage site in Tamil Nadu battles the elements. Now, this Jain heritage has been found in either damaged or vandalized position, and Archaeological Survey of India has undertaken conservation measures and also introduced digital checks to track public access. So this particular area, that is Padukottai district of Tamil Nadu, had Jain influence for 1000 years just before the Christian era. And here the news mentions about the term Sita Navasal. Now these refers to villages and hillocks that houses temple of Arihats. Arihats are those Jains who have conquered their senses. A cavern with 17 polished rock beds, and also some small mountain lake having submerged shrine. And the Sita Navasal also contain Pandyan paintings, although originally it was patronized by the Pallava king Mahendra Varman, and it was only later the Pandya rulers took the patronage for these paintings. So the Sita Navasal is a rock-cut cave belonging to Jainism, and it has Jain sculptures, carved wall images, and mural paintings. Further, it also has a Garbhagriha, that is Sanctum Sanctorum, and also a semi-hall or Ardha Mandapam. Further, the front hall or the Mukh Mandapa was an addition made in frontage built during the Pandyan rule. And some of the important features about this particular painting, that is Sitanavasal Jain painting, is that found in Pattukotai district of Tamil Nadu. However, there are other monuments also, and there are many archaeological finds of megalithic burial sites from much earlier period as well. So the period has been associated as 7th century post Ajanta caves, and the patronage is that of Pandyan dynasty. Technique used is fresco secco technique, which is a process which dispenses with preparation of the wall with wet plaster, and colors are mixture of plant dyes and mineral elements such as lime, lamp black and clay pigments. Now regarding the composition of the paintings, it contains ceiling paintings showing bhavyas, now exalted souls who work to achieve moksha or spiritual liberation, enjoying themselves in a pool full of lotuses. The next important feature is faint outlines linger of dancing girls on the Ardha Mandapam pillars. And these pillars of the veranda, which were added by Maharaja of Padukottai in the 1990s, were brought from Kudumiyan, Malai. And the paintings are with the theme of Jain Samavasarana, that is the most attractive heavenly pillar. It means the attainment of Nirvana and Khatika Bhumi. So these are some of the important highlights with respect to Sita Navasal Jain paintings. And this topic gets covered under GS paper 1 with respect to history and culture. So with this we come to an end to today's discussion. Thank you for watching DNS.